Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers.
And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 15, Episode 162. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Friday, Steelers Nation, the final weekend before Training Camp 2025, and really the Steelers season gets underway. And while yesterday was conventionally viewed as the slowest day in sports, it was not the slowest day for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The theme of the offseason, Dave, has been never a dull moment with these Pittsburgh Steelers, and yesterday continued that as all the speculation and trade rumors and will he hold out, what will happen, it can be put to rest. The Pittsburgh Steelers and TJ Watt have agreed to a 3-year, $123 million extension, $108 million fully guaranteed, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. That's $41 million per year average yearly value, making Watt not only the highest paid pass rusher in football, but the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. So the deal is done. He'll be there at training camp, and that storyline can be put to bed. So Dave, big news on what was otherwise a slow Thursday.
Yeah, ask me how I'm doing.
How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing better than Jerry Jones and Mike Brown, but probably not as good as TJ Watt. So somewhere in between there on this Friday. Happy Friday to you. Hope you're doing well.
We're going to get a scale or a gauge and check in each episode on the TJ Watt to Jerry Jones scale. How do you feel? I like that, Dave.
Yeah, probably a pretty good range within all that. But I have an idea what we're going to talk about today.
And let's talk about it. Let's dive on in. And you're the contract man, and you were the guy that was steadfast that Watt would remain a Pittsburgh Steeler, and so he did. And I think we both thought that should a deal happen, and it likely was to occur, that he would top Myles Garrett's average yearly value. That is just one top-line number, but it's still an important one that gets touted quite a bit. And so Watt surpassing Myles Garrett's $40 million per season. Maybe Pittsburgh's procrastination, in a sense, ended up having to cost them more in the end by having to top Garrett's contract, but there should be big kudos to Omar Khan, Cole Marco, the organization, for getting this deal done before training camp begins.
Look, this is going to be a long conversation, so everybody buckle up here, because there's a lot of different layers to this onion to kind of peel away and talk about here. First and foremost, there was never really a doubt in my mind that this was going to get done. And as I stated, I thought there was a very good chance that not only would he top Myles Garrett, that he'd top Jamar Chase as well too, become the highest paid non-quarterback. All the tea leaves pointed this way. The cash spending, just the subject matter, TJ Watt, the whole game that related to average yearly value and everything that runs along with that. Never a doubt in my mind. I never bought into any of the TJ Watt potentially being traded stuff. That the only thing that I kind of feel that I was off on here overall was I was fairly sure that this would be a 4-year extension, not a 3-year extension there. But other than that, this thing went pretty much exact. And the only other thing too is, when would this happen? Would they get it done before camp? Would it be 2 weeks into camp? Would it be 2 days before the start of the regular season? That was one question out there that that really you didn't really have a good feel about. Especially you had all the national and the local guys saying they're not close, and there were even more reports, I think, yesterday morning, they're not close, and you get to right after lunch and the deal's done. So at the very least, this is put to bed before the start of training camp, so there'll be no questions about hold in, hold out. all these players getting asked about TJ Watt's situation. So all that's put to bed now. Could this thing have gotten done earlier in the offseason? Yes. Let's start with the deal overall. As you mentioned, 3 years, what, 123 million, 108 supposedly fully guaranteed. We in the past we've seen fully guaranteed end up being injury guaranteed, but it seems like the reporting seems to be pretty consistent that 108 million, which just essentially sounds like it'll be the first 3 years through 2027 fully guaranteed. Not a surprise there. Obviously the new money average is 41 million. When you add in the old money related to this contract of the 21.05 million, this brings us up to what, 144.05 million. This thing's likely to total out if all the reporting is correct so far. For the
And just real quick, that's why you're seeing some reports of a 4-year deal, correct? It's the old money versus new money blend.
Yeah, and what this is just mostly the local beat writers trying to in some way try to carry water for the team, I guess, and make the average yearly value look lower. Shame on them for doing this. New money average has been the norm to measure contracts for some time now, and you know. As the saying goes, you hate the player, don't hate the player, hate the game.
Mhm.
Old money is just that. It's old money. Deals are measured. Everything is stacked up, and people saying these national guys are just a mouthpiece for the agents and all like that. That's just a lazy way of kind of looking at these things, and this is not new. The new money average is what matters to the players, to the agents, and not only that, not enough talk about the actual cash flow, because you can make a new money average be you could have a new money average of a deal be 41 million across 3 different deals, and all 3 of those deals could be different depending on the cash flow, the new money cash flow of the first new year, the or the second new year, and all like that. That's how these deals are measured. You could have a $41 million APY new money average with a balloon final year that the player is unlikely to never see, that really skews the new money average up. And hey, it's all new money, right? But how you pay this thing out matters a lot in this as well too. So this is just laziness. If you wanted to say this is Dave taking a shot, call it whatever it is. But new money average is the way these things are measured. And then within that, the cash flow of these deals, starting really in the first new year and then into the second new year, are really how these things are measured. And so that's that soapbox I'll get off of early here.
Well, let's get into the details of this deal a little bit more, but just a quick aside. A couple hours, and it's funny, these things, when you look back, it always makes sense. But a couple hours before this deal was reported, we got to see TJ Watt really for the first time this summer. There was a photo shared on his Instagram of him working out with Nick Herbig, a bunch of Wisconsin Badgers, presumably in Wisconsin, and Watt with a big old smile on his face. He'd be smiling too if he were about to get paid $123 million. And Watt looked pretty good. The dude has not skipped arm day, that's for sure. And so right after that, or a couple hours after, the news of the deal broke.
Yeah, absolutely. And is it a coincidence? Is it an accident? It's on what's usually termed as the slowest day in the sports world that this thing gets announced and TJ Watt goes right to the front page, and really, other than the NFLPA executive director stepping down, that was the only kind of fight that he had for front page news. Me thinks that was not a coincidence or an accident about the timing of this thing as well too. Maybe I'm wrong there, but it was.
There was some other legal stuff with NFL receivers. the NFL that will gladly take the Watt headline over the other stuff that was about to be the story of the day.
Yeah, so front page of the sports world news on Thursday for TJ Watt. Once again, that might not have been a coincidence there. The team obviously is yet to announce this deal yet. We'll see if that gets announced today or Saturday or Monday or first day of camp, whenever. There's still minor details that we don't know yet, like the signing bonus and what the first year base salary is. If this thing goes the way kind of traditionally the way Watt's last deal went, and ways the Steelers like to do these deals with these big money contracts, I theorize, speculate, whatever you want to call it, that a signing bonus will be probably around in the neighborhood of 40 million, give or take a million on either side there. I would imagine Watt's new cap number comes in somewhere in the $22 million range for 2025, down from the 30 whatever million that it's set to be at right now. I expect this thing to have a strong cash flow in year one, new year one, which would be 2026 and 2027. I would imagine his cash flow is slightly higher than that of Jamar Chase and Myles Garrett in this thing, if not pretty damn near close to it. For lack of a better classification, and everybody says, con artist and all like that. TJ Watt won every aspect of this deal in my book. First and foremost, highest paid APY, highest paid non-quarterback in the league for however long that lasts. All right, so he gets that designation again. That's obviously a win. Number two, assuming the guaranteed money report is right about the 108 million fully guaranteed, that would probably mean the first 3 years of this deal. That's obviously another win for TJ Watt. He is the only player, non-quarterback, and I had to go back and look up some of the Roethlisberger deals and all like that. But non-quarterback that has had the first 3 years, two years in a row, or 2 deals in a row, fully guaranteed. So that's another win for him there. The length of the contract. Some people were saying, well, I don't know how people would classify a shorter contract not being a win for a player. It potentially gets the player to market sooner overall. Now, in TJ Watt's case, this might be, not end up being anything whatsoever, because 2028 very well could be the final year of TJ Watt's career. TJ Watt, for whatever reason, might not see that final year if he falls off the cliff, so to speak there. But if TJ Watt, plays well and plays out this thing for 4 years and decides he wants to keep playing, that gets him to market potentially another year earlier, or at worst, puts the team in a situation where they have to slap the franchise tag on him and decide what they want to do from that aspect. So TJ Watt, if you want to talk from a negotiation standpoint, won every aspect there is related to this deal, barring the cash flow maybe coming in the first new year, 2026 and 2027, being a little bit lower than Jamar Chase and or Myles Garrett. But I'm willing to bet that's not going to happen there. So the winner on this Friday morning is TJ Watt.
That's really fair, and I agree with you in the sense of all of the questions about this deal. The structure went in Watt's favor. I don't say this to dispute or even really push back on what you're saying, Dave, but I would just say, did Pittsburgh try to, quote, win the deal? They won the deal by getting the deal done now before training camp and getting their star player locked up, which was their intention. So I would say from that standpoint, I don't know if Pittsburgh was trying to, quote, win the deal. They were just trying to get the deal done under reasonable terms. I think they did that, Dave.
Oh, okay. I don't mean to interrupt the train of thought right there, Alex, but we now have the details related to the TJ Watt extension and how nice it is to see those in this short a time. Less than 24 hours after the initial deal or extension was announced. Now, once again, the Steelers have not announced this yet, but these details come courtesy of Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk, who does a good job in getting these numbers out fast and a lot of times first here when it comes to these things. Let's start first and foremost. $40 million signing bonus with TJ Watt. I think last night I put on Twitter that expect the signing bonus to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 million. It's right at 40 million. The base salary fully guaranteed 2025 is $4 million. If you're scoring at home, that should make TJ Watt's 2025 cap number, let's see, 23.368694. His cap charge was a little more than 30 million for 2025 prior to this, so that means it has decreased by 7.05 million, and there's a penny or a dollar there at the end there. So roughly 7.05 million. His cap charge went down. Florio is indeed reporting that fully guaranteed for the first 3 years of this deal, meaning the total cash flow of the first 3 years, through 2027, which is 108 million. Watt has base salaries in 2026 and 2027, both fully guaranteed in the amount of 32 million. That makes his cap charges in 2026 and 2027 42 million. As for 2028, Watt has a base salary non-guaranteed 21.05 million. He is reportedly, according to Mike Florio, due a March 2028 roster bonus of 15 million. That also is not guaranteed. Assuming he sees that final year of the deal, his cap charge right now is 46.05 million. If you're scoring at home, and I know you are, the new cash flow, Watt was due 21.05 million previously for 2025. That's gone up now to 44 million. That's a new cash flow of 22.95 million. The rest of his cash flow is fairly strong. New cash flow in the first new year of the deal, 2026, is 54.95 million. And 2027, the second new year of the deal, his new cash flow is 86.95 million. I'll have to double check how close that is to Garrett and Chase. I would imagine if it's not slightly higher, it's just slightly lower. So and once again, this team spent Watt was on the books as a cash spend total for 2025 of 21.05 million. It goes up to 44 million now, and that now means that an increase of 22.95 million more cash than he was already scheduled to earn. And if you're looking at this from a total cash spending perspective, as we sit here right now, I have the top 53 and the players with signing bonuses this year outside of the top 53 in a practice squad and off-season workout bonuses as a cash total of around 295 million. I think I projected the number at, let's see, where did I have my numbers at? 286.2 is what I projected the number to be about. So they're obviously over that amount now. Now, there'll be some give back probably along the way. Players in the top 53 right now all of them aren't likely to make the final 53. So there's likely to be a little bit of cash give back within that. Long story short, they're going to be at least 102% more than the cap total cap league-wide cap number for this year when it comes to cash spending. How much more is yet to be determined, but if you're holding out hope that the Steelers will have any other big cash expenditures moving forward, I'd hold your breath a little bit when it comes to that. So those are the new details. I think Alex, I put a projection last night in our Discord channel. I think I came pretty damn close to that overall. Pretty proud of myself. But those are the details related to the T.J. Watt deal.
You did. In golf terms, you're right there at the pin. So kudos as always, Dave. Now that we have all the information on Watt's deal, have your thoughts changed on your previous comment of Watt won this deal? It probably hasn't, but now that the details are fully out, did Watt win this deal?
It certainly does look like it. Let me look real quick here at cash flows for the first new year. Let me sort this out from over the cap and look at Jamar Chase through year one, first new year of Jamar Chase's deal. His new money cash flow was 53.14, and Watt is 54.95. So he topped Chase, and the first new year of Garrett was 55.203. So just under new cash flow of Watt through the first new year. Now Garrett, second new year was $80 million cash flow. Watt tops him at 86.95. So he's got him there, and he also topped Jamar Chase 83.184 million versus Watt 86.95 through the second new year. So no, it does not change any. The only real give back within this, I guess, would be that Watt's first new year cash flow does not top Garrett's first new year of cash flow, but I believe Garrett did have like 2 years left on his deal when he signed his, so there might be a little bit of offset within that. So yeah, T.J. Watt, and once again, $108 million supposedly fully guaranteed in this thing through 2027.
We're not seeing anything funny money of injury guarantee that's boosting that $108 million figure, correct? That looks pure, literal guaranteed money.
Yeah, as Mike Florio wrote at the top of his post here, that deal include there's always a possibility that the deal includes a Fugazi final year that accomplishes his goal. The new TJ contract does not contain such a Fugazi final year, and yeah, it doesn't look like there's any. Looks like it's fully guaranteed. Not through the first 3 years. Nothing based on injury or anything related to that.
And then that fourth year, that final year of 2028, like you said, the March roster bonus. So that's a little bit, see how Watt looks. So if you are concerned about this deal, say, man, TJ Watt's in his 30s. He's had some injury issues. Look at JJ Watt and his injury history. Is this guy going to be healthy in 2028? Well, Pittsburgh can make that decision then. And not sure what the dead money would be then, but it's not going to be a whole lot, especially on a continually rising salary cap.
Yeah, if they had to cut, I mean, you're talking about $10 million in proration at that point. So if they got to March in 2028 and said, nah, I think it's time we part ways. You got $10 million in dead money there, and that's it. So obviously how he plays in these next 3 years will determine whether or not he sees that 2028 year, all of which is non-guaranteed right now.
So in that sense, it's really a 2-year extension of him being guaranteed to be in Pittsburgh. So for those, again, who are concerned about longevity, 2 years is not that big of a risk.
Right. Now, I guess we can we move forward from the contract numbers here. And, we already talked about how Watt won this deal from every angle. Uh, was 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 this the right thing to do? And that's it's obviously going to be depending on who you ask. But I've got a lot of thoughts on this, but I want to hear your thoughts on it first and foremost. And I believe you wrote about it this morning.
I did article up on Steelers Depot you guys can check out to give my full thoughts, but I think it was the right deal. I think you trust your stars, you pay your stars, you retain your talent. The idea of trading TJ Watt in an offseason where I don't want to say Pittsburgh has gone all in because they still have plenty of cap space for next year, plenty of draft picks for next year, but there's been aggressive moves to win now. There's no question about that. Getting older on this roster, more short-term plays of Darius Slay, of course, Aaron Rodgers. We'll see how long Jalen Ramsey's in Pittsburgh, etc. So there's certainly a desire to win right now, maximize the play of this defense, the prime of TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, while he's still a Pittsburgh Steeler and playing really good football. So all that told me sign this guy rather than trade this guy. And I still think he will bounce back. I mean, it was a tough end of the season last year, no question. There are some circumstances to discuss with that. Pittsburgh's poor run defense, teams playing with a lead. They weren't throwing as much. They were getting the ball out quickly, all that kind of stuff. But Watt and company have to play better than that. But it is a small sample size. And TJ Watt, prior to really starting with the second half of that Eagles game, because he was great in the first half of that game. That's why that game was close for the first 30 minutes. TJ Watt was his typical defensive MVP, most valuable player, front runner, making plays, coming up clutch, drawing attention. I mean, he was still that guy through 3/4 of the season. And I still think that, with a couple of schematic tweaks and really just this defense getting back to base and some of the upgrades Pittsburgh has made this year, they'll still be a really, really strong unit and TJ Watt will return to form. So all that told me was to pay this guy, get this deal done. I wish it would have happened back in March. I was critical of the team for waiting this long, but to get it done now ahead of Micah Parsons is good business.
All right. If you are one that thinks no, okay, let's start first and foremost. Hate the game, don't hate the player. There was no way that this deal was going to get done without making Watt the new highest paid non-quarterback. There was no way that this deal was going to get done if you didn't fully guarantee the first 3 years of the deal. That's just the way. If you want, this is that's just, I hate to say it, it's just the way it is with this thing. It's always up in the positional market value. Who's the next man up? And if you're saying fine, if you could not get the deal done, anything other than this, then make TJ Watt. Force TJ Watt's hand. I imagine you would have gotten a situation where Watt would seriously consider missing the first, what is it, 6-7 games? What has he got to qualify to get a accredited season and thus satisfy, and then become a free agent after the season? However many games he would have had to sit out, you run the risk of doing that by not giving him a deal, making him play for $21.05 million. He obviously would be very, very unhappy, even if he did play. Then you get into the whole threat of the franchise tag next year. For those of you that would be in the boat of calling his bluff and all like that, I mean, I get it. I get the way of thinking there, but you would have caused a lot of drama, a lot of discourse within this team. Not only that, you wouldn't have put additional cash on the books, not only this year, but next year to go towards spending. And people will push back and say, fine, just worry about it next year. Well, you got to have plans within this thing. It's not just as easy as saying, worry about it next year. That's why they map all this stuff out before the start. Once they get into the meetings right after, probably around combine time, probably a little bit before combine time. Had that great interview not long ago from Samir talking about how they map all this stuff out. And my other train of thought, I guess, here is could this deal have gotten done earlier in the offseason to save a little bit of money before Myles Garrett signs his deal, before Jamar Chase signs his deal, maybe right after Crosby sign his deal? Yeah, unequivocally, yes. But we assume that TJ Watt's side wasn't willing to wait it out, knowing that guys like Garrett, Jamar Chase, and potentially even guys like Michael Parsons, Trey Hendrickson could have gotten deals, and then thus the Watt side might have been leaving a little bit of money on the table. Look, as well as I like to think that I track cash spending and contracts around the league and contract projections and how contract talks are likely going, we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And if you think I track it well, times that by 100 to what these agents and financial, the guys who's, these agencies and all like that, their job to do this stuff. So yeah, do I think at its core they probably should have and could have gotten this thing done prior to guys like Garrett and Jamar Chase getting their deals done? Yeah, it's easy for me to say that because they had the cap space. They knew what the cash spending was going to be. For whatever reason, they decided to wait. And it obviously cost them a little bit more money all the way around there. And I think overall, if you have if you have an issue overall with the Steelers doing this, then you have to have an overall issue with organizational strategy. And that starts from the top all the way to the bottom. Starts with Art Rooney II on through Omar Khan, Mike Tomlin, however deep of a layer you want to do this thing. The team traditionally likes to build and develop through the draft. They like to pay their own good players on top of it. This is a team that, like it or not, invest heavily in its defense. They are still firm believers that defense is the way to championships overall. And so if you want to start having any issue with the decision to sign TJ Watt to this deal, you have to start with criticizing the overall philosophy of the organization. And within that, you have to criticize the mindset of this team liking to draft and develop and then pay. And then on top of it, the fact that this team, when it comes to first round draft picks over the last several years, really since TJ Watt, has not done a good job on their first round draft picks. Now we'll obviously see how things play out with Broderick Jones and Troy Fautano and all, but up until that point, and definitely through the first couple of years of Broderick Jones, long story short, you don't have other top players to pay. And if you have a disgruntled player in TJ Watt, what does that do to the mindset of your defense going into this year? And even if TJ Watt plays 2 games, goes down injured, doesn't play the rest of the season, this was still the right decision because you had to get this deal done, in my opinion. You knew what it was going to take to get this deal done. And if TJ Watt, let's say he doesn't get injured, goes out there, has 10.5, 11 sacks, I would like to think the quality of TJ Watt's play overall would be one guy helps make the rest of the unit around him better overall. Would you rather have TJ Watt on this defense or not on this defense when it comes to 2025 and 2026 there? So unequivocally, I think this was the right decision. I'll listen to any kind of pushback, and there is a ton of it. Of they should have made him wait. TJ Watt should have taken less money. They should have threatened him with the franchise tag and worked off of that. But the fact of the matter is, you just cannot ignore the fact that you've got cash requirements overall when it comes to the 3-year period. The only pushback overall that I would really entertain is, why didn't you get this deal done earlier in the offseason? Maybe you free up a little bit of cash that way to maybe add another player. mid-range player, as opposed to probably not going to do much moving forward from this point forward. But regardless, look, you run every player's on a snap-to-snap basis, right? You cannot predict these things, and I get the whole he has Watt in his blood, and we see how J.J. Watt aged and wrong side of 30. Look, those are the chances that you take within this thing. And I think the main hope overall is that you get at least two. This thing's guaranteed for the next 3 years. You obviously hope you get a good next couple of years out of it, maybe even 3. But I don't view this unless TJ Watt just absolutely falls off the cliff and misses multiple games over the course of the next 3 seasons. This is not going to handcuff this team financially, because remember, this team does not have a franchise quarterback under contract at this point. Say what you will about Aaron Rodgers, but that's not taxing this team for 2025. Even if you go into the draft next year and you draft a quarterback number 1, it's going to be another 3 years before you have to pay that player and get him into top market value. The good news here is you've got a young developing player, hopefully in Jack Sawyer, that'll come along and be the next man up at some point. There's no way anybody listening to this show can convince me that this was not, for all the reasons that I give, organizational standpoint, cash, cap, player, all of it. There's no reason anybody can convince me that this was not the right decision to make here. This is not the right contract, and that even if Watt just flames out from this point forward. Oh,
Take a breath, Dave. Not to harp on the whole they could have gotten this done earlier point, just my last thought was, yes, you're right. We'll never know for sure if his agents had a calculated decision of let's not engage in talks too early, let the market play out, let guys get paid. That'll boost our value. We'll make more money in the long run. Patience is a virtue. But Watt didn't wait for Micah Parsons to get a deal. He could have waited until September and had a nice, easy summer training camp and not doing a whole lot and chilling and let the market go up more, see what Hendrickson gets paid, see what Aiden Hutchinson, if he gets paid, which is, possibly could happen. So my suspicion is this was not Watt's camp wanting to wait, given that Pittsburgh generally does not do these big money deals very early in the offseason, talking February through April. Usually they're now June at the earliest. Minka Fitzpatrick, now, TJ Watt under Omar Khan are waiting until training camp or post-training camp, as Cam Hayward, Pat Frymuth were examples last year. So that's my last piece on that. Dave, let me ask you a couple questions to those that say, don't pay TJ Watt. They'd never won a playoff game with him. They're not getting any real value out of this. He's not worth it because he's been part of this playoff drought. What would you say to that?
You're certainly probably not going to win a playoff game without him.
Or win many games without him, as Pittsburgh has shown. Whenever he does not play, Pittsburgh simply does not win. That would be my retort to that thought.
Look, I think the biggest thing coming out of last season when it comes to Watt, I wrote about this just yesterday on my 90 and 30, and I think you kind of alluded to it today. TJ Watt was not having an awful season until the final 3 regular season games and then the playoff game against the game against the Eagles. He had 2 sacks in that game, and I think one thing, and I'm not using this as an excuse, I think it's just something to acknowledge. He suffered that lower left ankle injury in that game against the Eagles. Played well, and then from that point forward, even in the playoff game against the Ravens, 0 stats, right? Whatsoever. And in the final 3 games, no sacks. What did he have? I think 1 quarterback hit or something like that. He obviously the meaningful stats in those final 3 games and that lone postseason game weren't there. Now, remember, he was questionable heading out of that Eagles game, and ultimately decided to play, you do have to wonder how. Now it never came out of his mouth, if I can remember, and kudos for him for not using an excuse on it. There, you do have to wonder how hampered he was by that lower left ankle injury in those final 3 regular season games, the final playoff game, and the playoff game as well too. But up until that point, he was, if he would have probably stayed on the track that he was on, it still would, obviously it would have been a better season than he ended up having overall there.
Also, like a thumb injury, too. People forget about
Right,
that. It was a thumb injury that probably hampered his pass rushing. Now, some would sit there and say, well, he just hurt all the time, and that's why
right.
you don't pay him. But those aren't debilitating long-term injuries, obviously.
And look, banged up and all, he still played 17 games in 2024 and 17 in 2023, right? Yeah, he was banged up in them, and if it's fair to question, is this going to be a thing with him where he's having to play through injuries? You definitely hope not, but look, yeah, stats aside, uh, what is the term used with TJ Watt? Game wrecker, right? Uh, you hope that the game wrecking ability, even if it doesn't show up in stats, that it helps the overall uh face of the defense, right? All right. If Watt's not getting his, maybe it's opening up somebody else. You got Derek Harmon on this team now. You obviously still got Cameron Hayward. You got Keanu Benton expected to take the next step forward. Alex Highsmith had a good season last year, despite missing some time with injury. You got Nick Herbig going into his 3rd year. You got Patrick Queen going into his 2nd year with this team. You expect development out of Peyton Wilson this year. You got a youngster in Jack Sawyer probably going to get a little snaps. My hope is that Jack Sawyer and Nick Herbig can maybe lighten the load. It's going to be pulling teeth to get TJ Watt off the field, but sometimes you got to protect guys from themselves. So maybe you can get TJ Watt off the field a tad bit more. You went out there and invested in going out and get a guy in Jalen Ramsey. You got a veteran guy in Darius Slay. You got Joey Porter Jr. expected to take another step forward in this. All of these pieces of look, TJ Watt going out and getting 19 sacks for the Steelers in 2025 won't automatically put this team in the playoffs and win a playoff game, right?
Sure, but it'll sure be
It
one
damn
heck of a
sure
start to
help.
get there. Yeah.
Yeah, what did David Lee Roth say? Money can't buy you happiness, but it'll buy you a boat big enough to pull up right along side of it, right?
hmm
Yeah. Would it? Does it hurt? No, but I mean, this is obviously got to. I mean, he's so good against the run, the tackles for loss, the quarterback hits, the quarterback pressures, the forced fumbles, and all like that. So, I mean, I look, I will back things up to this far. If you really thought that TJ Watt shouldn't have got the deal this offseason, and you really think that the Steelers should have traded TJ Watt this offseason, then hopefully you have somewhere on record of wanting to do that prior to the 2025 draft, right? Because that would have been made the most sense at that time as far as game planning for cap and cash and what you're going to do in the draft and free agency and post free agency and all like that. If you unequivocally thought going into this offseason that Watt shouldn't get a new deal, that if Watt, if it looked like there was no way around a new deal for making him the new highest paid non-quarterback, then ahead of the draft is really when you should have been the most vocal. And if you were, all right, to trade TJ Watt prior to the draft, because that way you could have, obviously, and this team obviously did go out and still get an outside linebacker in the draft, though. But you can make more plans of how you're going to attack this in free agency, what you're going to do with that money, the cash that you wanted to spend, everything along those lines. You could have got your draft capital secure for even higher for next year, yada yada. So if you indeed were of the mindset that, man, if you're sitting here at this point saying they shouldn't have given TJ Watt that deal, they should have traded him, should have looked into every avenue, then you should have been pushing for this hard prior to the draft, because that would have been the time that it would have made the most sense to do such a thing as far as that goes.
And I still wonder what his trade market value truly would have been, given the age, given especially the giant contract that would be due his way. I don't think Pittsburgh would have gotten a return that would have satisfied even those who wanted to trade TJ Watt. So if you hate the deal, not much we can really, tell you otherwise, but just this acknowledge it's a shorter term deal. The fully guaranteed money is only through the next 2 seasons, as in 2026 and 2027. 2028 is a pay as you go, see what happens type of year. The salary cap will continue to go up. To me, Watt is still a dominant player. You use game wrecker. It's an apt term. I'll use force multiplier, where he makes
There you
everyone
go.
better around him for all the reasons that you stated. The attention, when offensive coordinators begin building out their game plan against Pittsburgh, they start with one guy, number 90. How do we solve him? How do we take care of him to the best of our abilities? And I made the point. I had a comment on Twitter yesterday. Some other guys like Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, fantastic players. They move around, and that makes them more of a threat than TJ Watt. I think it's equally as impressive. TJ Watt's built a Hall of Fame career from one spot, that left outside linebacker spot. He moved there in his second season. Teams know exactly where he's going to be, and they still can't stop him. Now, he slowed down the end of last season for a variety of reasons, but that's a small sample size in the scope of his career. And before that, even in 2024, he was still his typical dominant TJ Watt self. So I'm happy with his deal, happy he's a Steeler for a long time, and really happy this gets done before training camp.
And look, we talked about his cap charge for next season, $42 million. How is that going to look compared to what the expectations of the cap going up? And look, after Micah Parsons signs his deal, who's over in Detroit?
Aiden Hutchinson.
I always can't pull that name off the top of my head. And obviously, Trey. I'd hate to be Mike Brown right now. Look, with Trey Hendrickson coming in, because look, if anybody right now, look at the last couple of seasons that Hendrickson has had, and he's like 30 or about to be 31 as well too, screaming for a new deal. A year from now, how is this deal going to look? Not saying that justifies all this altogether, but the sooner you get these deals done, the quicker they look better a year, 2 years from now, as well too. I was going back looking at some bad decisions that the Steelers have made kind of after the fact when it comes to sometimes of these contracts. And the first thing that always jumps in my head when I think about such things is Willie Colon, right?
Oh, okay.
Remember back in 2010, Cologne tore his Achilles, forcing him in June of 2010. He tore his Achilles, and that forced him to miss the 2010 season. The Steelers then turned around the following July in 2011 and signed Cologne to a 5-year deal, for $29 million. Now, obviously, he only had, I believe, the first year guaranteed. There wasn't guaranteed money past 2011 there, so a little bit different animal here. But then Cologne goes out after signing that 5-year deal with $29 million. Boy, how does that look all these years later? Now you're looking at 5 years, $29 million.
Right.
And I'll have to go back and look where that ranked Cologne at the time, in APY. I can't remember that. But in week 1 of the 2011 season, he tore his triceps, right? So you're thinking, oh man, they just signed this guy to a 5-year, $29 million deal. First week against the Ravens, tore his triceps, and then missed the rest of that season. Well, then they turned around in 2012 and did what with Cologne?
They cut him?
No, they restructured his contract.
Okay.
And pushed, because they had the whole, they were a lot more of a cap crunch. Obviously had Roethlisberger in some meat of some deals. Then they turned around, I believe, and let me double check that as far as the timing. I mean, yeah, they would have had to, because he signed a new deal in 2011. So in 2012 he restructured his contract. And then how many games did Willie Colon play in 2012? I know we're getting down the rabbit hole here, but I'm trying to point out the bad, that is, he played in 11 games in 2012. So now you're really thinking, all right, not only did they sign him to a deal coming off of an Achilles in 2011, they turned around in 2012 and restructured his deal. Now, obviously, there was no new money or anything in that, but what you ended up doing was set yourself up for more dead money by pushing prorated money forward into forward years. And then you turn around in 2013 in March and you wind up having to cut him because you're tired of throwing good money after bad, right? So,
Sure.
but the Steelers were still, competitive, obviously throughout those years. Now, in what I think 2012, didn't they go like 8-8 or something that
Hmm.
year? But it still wasn't crippling overall when it comes, to deals. I guess what I'm trying to say here is, bar him, even if TJ Watt once again goes out and plays 2 games this year, 6 games or 8 games, doesn't have the season that you want, and you get into next year. I mean, obviously, it's unfortunate. It's not what you planned to happen, and people will say, "I told you so," and all like that. But I this is not going to cripple this franchise because of the standpoint of A, you don't have a franchise quarterback on the horizon that you're going to pay. Who are the next guys up to get deals next offseason at this point? Potentially Joey Porter Jr. and Keanu Benton. And you hope to God that you're in a situation where you're talking, man, these guys, it's going to take a lot of money to sign these guys because that means they played well this year, right? And even if you get in that situation, those deals are not going to come close to what TJ Watt is making, what for either one of those guys there. And you obviously hope that you draft and develop well. I think 2025 season overall depends on a lot of things, with Watt obviously being a part of that. How does Aaron Rodgers play? How do these young tackles develop? How does Joey Porter Jr. develop? How does Queen in his second year, Keanu Benton and all? So this is, even if this thing goes south with TJ Watt, I still firmly believe this was the right course of action here, unless you want to go all the way back prior to the draft and come up with a scenario of trading TJ Watt and then mapping out what those new players you go out and get and money that you spend. Look, this team would not have gone out and traded for DK Metcalf and signed him to the deal that they signed him for had this team been comfortable with giving that same kind of money to George Pickens, but they definitely didn't feel comfortable in doing that. That's why they dealt Pickens. That's why they went out and traded for Metcalf, because they had to essentially give that money to somebody. And DK Metcalf's not a bad player to have to do that for, but in the meantime, you had to send George Pickens packing, and then people will look forward to the whole Minka Fitzpatrick thing overall. This team's going to end up spending more cash overall on Ramsey and Jonnu Smith combined than what they were set to pay Minka Fitzpatrick in cash in 2025. As that total was $15.5 million, they're going to go, what is it, 6-8 million more in cash spending above that by going out. And yeah, you lose a great player in Minka Fitzpatrick, but you hope that you can keep it bottled up on the back end. You hope what bringing in Ramsey and Jonnu Smith helps you in 2 different areas as opposed to potentially being status quo at 1 at free safety.
Well, let me go back, and I know the lens in which you said it. If TJ Watt gets hurt or is not the TJ Watt Pittsburgh needs him to be, it's crippling from an on-field standpoint. They need TJ Watt to play well. It's not necessarily crippling financially because early cap space projections for next year, Dave, Pittsburgh's in good shape, I believe. Is that accurate?
Oh yeah. I mean, now, well, obviously you have to see what happens moving forward from this point forward. But I mean, I think the early projections right now for the cap number for next season is $295.5 million.
So, in Pittsburgh's projected space on that, based on what's on the books right now, I assume is well under that number. I know there's been some loose math out there. So that's just to say Pittsburgh is not mortgaging their future by paying TJ Watt now. But if he doesn't perform, if he's hurt, then of course it's going to be crippling just in terms of how you win and try to, capitalize on the roster you built right now. When I think about bad contracts, I thought about Lamar Woodley was the first one that came to mind, a pass rusher. And,
There you go.
we
That's
can
another
debate if
one.
that was a bad contract. He was playing really well, ends up getting hurt. Some debated if his work habits were an issue after getting paid. But that will not be an issue with TJ Watt. This dude is a hard worker, ferocious. He's, training all the time. And so there's no concern about the work ethic and what this means to TJ Watt, how seriously he'll take the game. He gets paid in 2021, goes out there and ties the NFL single season sack record. So overall, happy with this deal. Let me give you one comment and one thought to try to make anyone feel better about the team's calculation on TJ Watt, expecting him to bounce back and play well. This is a team that thought Minkah Fitzpatrick was not going to bounce back, and they admitted that essentially in the trade that brought in Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. They said, you know what, Minkah Fitzpatrick probably won't be the same player 2 years. He's had some down performances. We're going to move on. So they made the tough decision of saying we're going to move on from a guy we don't think will bounce back. And so obviously they're confident TJ Watt's not going to be in that camp. Now, does that guarantee they're going to be correct? No, not on either front, not on Fitzpatrick, not on TJ Watt. But it's a front office that can take a hard look at a roster and a star player and sit there and say, your best days are behind you. We're going to move on. I was still skeptical of the deal, still am. But from their standpoint, they can make that admission. So that should at least hopefully inspire a bit of confidence. They really, truly believe that TJ Watt is going to bounce back and be his typical TJ Watt self.
Yeah, and look, you're only one snap away from it all going south, right?
Right. That's
And that's the
unpredictable.
risk that you take with every player, every snap that they're on the football field for, regardless of what they pay. Yeah, are you betting? Are you at a little bit higher risk because of the age, and because of him being banged up, and because his last name's Watt? You look at what happened to JJ Watt, throughout his career. Yeah, absolutely. But the risk reward, that's what these guys are paid to do, to figure that out. And TJ Watt, even at 80%, is better than how many of the rest of the league when it comes to getting after the quarterback and stopping the run. Right now, obviously, you don't want 0% of TJ Watt due to injury and all. And look, this thing will obviously be looked at by fans and media and all like that, just black and white, right? How many sacks did TJ Watt get? How many forced fumbles did TJ Watt? And how many games did TJ Watt miss due to injury? I mean, we can sit here all day and analyze this from every other angle, but the masses will only look at it from really those two lenses alone. And then once again, if you're going to say, okay, you don't pay him that money, call his bluff on the season, threaten him with a franchise tag, or trade him. Once again, I think the only way that you're going to trade this guy was potentially ahead of the draft. And then, are you going to get the good enough draft capital back? Blah blah blah. What are you going to get in return? Are you going to get a player that you can turn around and pay? And if you only get picks for TJ Watt, then what does it look like they're going out and spending that money this season? And are you going to end up giving a Terry McLaurin 30-year-old contract for top 3 market? There's a lot of what ifs, hypotheticals, and woulda, coulda, shoulda, and all like that. Whereas, why not stay with the devil that you know, and the upside of the devil that you know, and everything related to it. So once again, I think it goes back to, like I said at the top, kind of as we got into this, if you unequivocally, and look, I don't have anything again. There, people saying this was the wrong decision. Okay. I mean, I get all the different angles people are going to look at this thing for and the opinions that they're going to have on this. But if you unequivocally think that the Steelers shouldn't have done this deal, then it's not on TJ Watt. It's not in this individual deal overall. It's you've got to have a firm stance of being against really the organizational overall view, which has been in place for quite a while. Once again, this team puts big emphasis on investing in their defense overall. First and foremost, they emphasize building through the draft and then paying those players on top of it. And specifically when it comes to first round players. And then on top of it, they tend to be fairly modest, a little bit more aggressive than usual when it comes to free agency, but they're not the team that goes out there and signs the highest paid player, dumping over market value for a player outside the organization. Is it a trend with what happened with DK Metcalf? I don't believe so. The only way I see similar stuff like that happening is if they continue to mess with these first and second rounders where they're not paying those guys and say, we got to spend this cash. So I think that's more of a one-off. I don't think it's a trend until it becomes something that happens again. So if you unequivocally have a problem with TJ Watt and this deal and what the Steelers have done here, you need to look at the organizational viewpoint. And then also you could say, well, they should have used this year, saved the cash, mailed it in, tank, whatever you want to call it. But it's just not in this organizational's DNA to do that, right?
Well, that's still the disagreement, that they should change their
Right.
DNA, that's the wrong approach. And we can debate that till the cows come home, but I understand the thought. Pittsburgh can change if they wanted to change. There's nothing
Sure,
stopping them from doing that.
sure. But, you know, you're going to probably be you're going to be living in a van down by the river until you no longer live in a van. You see what I'm saying here? I mean, it's going to take it's going to take a full organizational shift in several areas before you get away from what they're doing now. And I think people are holding their breath, complaining about what this team does from a annual organizational overall plan viewpoint.
How valid are the concerns, though, about his injury? That's the real reason why people are against the deal, I think, is the concern over his age and the injury history. Is that valid beyond just a standard anyone can get hurt at any
Sure.
time, which is true? Watt, I think, has something that exceeds that. He has battled his injuries, big and small. So how valid is that concern?
Yeah, look, this is a guy that goes 120% on every play, right?
Right. Run and
Uh,
pass.
I mean, this guy plays every snap like it might be his last one in the NFL.
Hmm.
I know you could say that about a lot of players in this league, and you obviously hope that would be the case with most. But the fact of the matter is TJ Watt thinks he can get 3 sacks on every snap of the football. Right? I mean,
Right. So, but how do you address that concern specifically? We know he's an all-out style guy. We know the history.
I'm not. How do you tell a guy like that? Whoa, you know.
Do you
Uh,
reduce that snap count? You mentioned that. I mean, at this point, do you consider that?
I do think that's something that this team should consider. And once again, pulling that guy off the field's like good luck with that. But you got to have these. Hopefully, Herbig takes the next step. Hopefully, Highsmith stays healthy. Sawyer, I'm more bullish than probably most is on him. Find a way, hopefully, to try to get a guy like Watt and Highsmith off the field a little bit more to kind of save a couple of those 120% effort snaps.
It is hard to take him off the field after paying him and you're facing a third down. You want your guys out there. There is that tough line to walk. My biggest concern with Watt health-wise specifically are his knees. He's had knee issues throughout his career. Nothing dramatically at the NFL level. The MCL sprain, 2 years ago? But I think back to his days at Wisconsin, he did almost medically retired in college because he just could not get his knees right. And so you wonder over time into his 30s, does that break down? Think back to Ben. What was the issue with Ben? Everyone thinks it was the arm. The arm was not the problem. His knees were shot by the end of his career, years of knee injuries and surgeries and scar tissue and probably arthritis. And so that's the concern with TJ Watt. Obviously, they have a better feel of where he's at medically than I never will. But if there is a concern about TJ Watt medically, to me, it just simply is, will his knees hold up into his mid-30s? One other quick point on that, people point to his brother, JJ, and his injury history. JJ started getting hurt in his mid-20s, 27, 28 years old, missed time. And, while he was not a titan of health in his 30s, at age 31, he played all 16 games. In his last season, at age 33, he played all 16 games and had 12 and a half sacks. So the Watts have shown they can still play really good football and be healthy into their early and mid-30s. Now, Watt also missed some time, JJ did, in 2021, but just to say, if you want to use JJ as the guy, JJ Watt showed he could still play, and frankly, he retired while still being able to play. He didn't retire because his body was shot and he couldn't play anymore. He retired. He wanted to go home and spend time with family. So, I think TJ Watt is capable of playing into his 30s, well into his 30s, but the question will just be, will his knees allow it?
Here's the thing with TJ Watt. His strengths are also probably his weaknesses when it comes to injury or likelihood, because that guy goes 90-0, and you end up him getting to the quarterback at times can result in him crashing into someone coming from whatever. In other words, I mean, what he does so well, if it doesn't end in a clean sack, can potentially set him up from getting leg whipped or trapped underneath a pot or whatever, right? I mean, so his own strength sometimes could wind up playing into an unfortunate injury just because of how hard he goes.
Yeah, I mean, he just had some weird stuff. The MCL sprain, didn't he? Wasn't he jumping up to try to bat down a pass and landed
Montrevious got
wrong?
him.
Oh, was it
Did,
Montrevious?
did
It
that,
was someone that collided with him, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Like, okay, so just the Burrow, he tried to sack Burrow and Torres Peck, and just his arm got pulled out. Just some weird freak stuff. So yeah, the style, he's an all out kind of a guy. But as you said, that's what you're signing up for. That's why you're paying him. That's why he's become the all time great that he is. So I'm happy with the deal.
Yeah, I am too. And once again, like I said, people are waiting for the aha after the fact, and hopefully you're not wishing for such. But I mean, if you get 2 years into this and he's missed several games and he's fallen off the cliff, to me, it was still a good risk to take. From where this team sits organizationally right now, and the overall philosophy that this organization has, unless this team all of a sudden does a 180 on that, which they're not. This there was no other. This is what it is, and you're just going to have to cross your fingers and move on. And if TJ plays in, look, here's the thing with TJ Watt. If he plays in 10 games, is healthy for 10 games, he's going to give you a damn good shot of winning those 10 games, is he not?
He is, but you need this guy to play more than 10
Sure.
games. I mean, if he
Sure.
plays 10 games, you're not going to feel great about this contract.
Sure. Absolutely. But I'd rather have TJ Watt on the field than opposed to not having him on the field.
Let me ask you one reader question from my Twitter timeline. I wanted to get to this. He says, this is a D3V1TO. We appreciate the question. He says, any reason the Steelers did not use option bonuses to lessen the cap hits like other teams have been doing? Maybe because he's older and they may not extend him after this. So you can take the question for however it's framed, and can you just address no option bonuses? There's the one roster bonus, but not the earlier option or roster bonuses.
Well, fully guaranteed money, right? Because option bonuses, if you could put them in there, but if you're not fully guaranteeing them, why is he going to sign that deal?
All right, and if they are guaranteed, then it's not an option bonus at all. It's just a roster bonus that's fully guaranteed, I suppose. So yeah, the structure of the deal, the fully guaranteed through the first 3 years, 2025 through 2027, makes option bonuses moot.
Look, this is a typical Steeler big money contract outside of the fact that you've got 3 years fully guaranteed in it, and it was going to take 3 years fully guaranteed to get the deal done. So, second time that he's gotten a 3-year full guarantees. Minka Fitzpatrick got the first 2 years fully guaranteed. I believe DK Metcalf's coming off of a deal that's got him fully guaranteed through the first 2 years. There's only certain play. Now, is this going to be the new norm for the Steelers? Only if you're top of the market guy. So whatever position or whatever player, non-quarterback that comes through this organization looking to get the first 3 years fully guaranteed, the Steelers have a precedent here, saying, we're only going to do that if you're the highest paid player in the NFL at your position. That's the only argument they'll listen to around any of that. So,
and even then, Minka only got 2 as the highest paid safety at the time.
Right.
Were you surprised this deal got done now? That's the one surprise I have in all of this.
Yeah, I mean, look, that was one of the big question marks. I had no doubt it'd get done. It was just a matter of when, right? And
when did you think it would get done? What was your expectation?
What did I say in a recent pod? I don't even remember what I said. Did I actually say that I thought it might get done before camp?
I do not remember.
I don't remember.
I thought it would take a while. I did not think it would get done this early.
Uh, the fact here's the long and short. I thought it would be done by week one. Obviously, I didn't think at my core that he'd actually hold out. I thought if it drifted into next week that he'd show up and just not follow the same path as 2021. And all nothing to say that he couldn't have gone the other direction, completely hold out, said to hell with the damn fines. I'll make it up on the back end now. So look, I'd rather it done before camp than after the start of camp because nobody's going to be asked about it now. It's done. It's not any sort of distraction. We don't have to write about TJ Watt was dressed, but didn't do much on the daily Alex Kozora reports on TJ Watt doing nothing. But if you're a fan of this deal getting done, then you're a fan of it getting done before the start of training camp. So I don't know that I really had expectations of the win other than being fairly confident that it would get done.
Fair. And it is. And I'm glad we don't have to find out whether he was going to hold in or hold out or how any of that would go. And I don't have to note about TJ Watt. Still expect him to get plenty of rest days, though. There's not a lot of need to get this guy a ton of reps in training camp. So don't be surprised if he's getting plenty of birth certificate days throughout the summer.
Right. And, he didn't miss many, if any, days last year during practice outside of rest days, did he? I think later in the season with that ankle, obviously. How much do you think that's a good topic, and we hit on it a little bit earlier in the show. And once again, I'm not making excuses for him, but how much do you think maybe that ankle injury played into how TJ Watt played the final 3 regular season games of the playoff game?
It was a component. The thumb injury was a component. The game circumstance, as I mentioned, the run defense as a whole being weaker. Pittsburgh playing from behind, allowed teams to play from ahead and run the ball. Think back to that Chiefs game. Patrick Mahomes held the ball for about 1.5 seconds on every single throw that he had in that one. And so a variety of reasons. Watt did not play up to standard. There's no question. Even before then, I had that cut up of him against Jack Conklin in that Cleveland loss, and Conklin owned Watt. Watt played just a miserable game that day, so I'm not here to make excuses for the guy, but there's certainly some circumstances of why that last 4 or 5 games was as quiet as it was.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Dave, I think that's going to wrap up our thoughts on the TJ Watt deal. Happy it's done before training camp.
All right. I imagine we'll get a lot of emails over things that we said in this one.
For sure. All right, we have a pretty long show. We had to try to chop this one up together. Let's try to get through as many of our 90 and 30 series as we can. Basically have only one other episode Monday show until training camp report day begins, which is Wednesday. So let's start with Isaac Seumalo. Speaking of veteran players, Isaac Seumalo, one of the oldest players on this team, entering a contract season. The Steelers starting left guard. Last year had that pec injury before the season began, missed the first month. I don't think he was ever right the rest of the way. Had just an okay season, but hoping he'll be that steady veteran along the offensive line.
Let's see. He obviously only played 23 snaps at left guard during the preseason before that pectoral injury sustained late in training camp, resulting in him missing the first 4 games of the regular season. That certainly put the Steelers in a little bit of a hole on the offensive line. Following his return from that injury, played in every game at left guard for the remainder of the season. That obviously included the lone playoff game. Played hair over 800 snaps. From a Pro Football Focus grading standpoint, if you entertain such, overall grade of 66.3, grade is slightly better run blocker than a pass protector. They charged him with 2 sacks last season. How many did you charge him with? Do you remember?
I will have to check. I'm not sure.
Flagged 5 times last season, 3 of those being for false starts. Other 2 penalties were for holding, and was flagged once during the playoff game for a false start as well too. Will turn 32 in October, has played in 111 regular season games. Look, he'll unquestionably be the starting left guard for the Steelers in 2025. The veteran offensive lineman in the room. He'll be joined on the left side this year by Broderick Jones, who is expected finally to flip over from the right side. long story short, not just Sayamalo. We've talked about this several times. This offensive line needs to take a big step forward in 2025. Isaac Sayamalo obviously being a big part of that. They need the 2023 version of Sayamalo, in my opinion, in 2025, and that goal seems certainly attainable. How he plays this season will likely go a long way in determining if he wants to, if they want to resign him after the season. We'll worry about that later. It's quite possible he'll be playing elsewhere in 2026, regardless if he doesn't decide to retire. Didn't make his first Pro Bowl last season, but he did so, I think, as an injury replacement. Uh, Look, they need this guy to play at a near Pro Bowl, near all second team All Pro type level, and it's a big year for him as it is for the rest of the offensive line, and I think that's the long and short of Isaac Sayamalo in 2025.
Hopefully, he can be some sort of stabilizing force with Broderick Jones. I don't want to pretend like that's the cure-all for Broderick Jones. It doesn't make blocking Myles Garrett any easier, but having a veteran over there hopefully will help out a guy like Jones a little bit. Is this Sayamalo's last season, you think, Pittsburgh? Or you think
Yeah,
leaving Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I think this is it for him. I think they go a different direction. And look, hopefully he has a great season. Hopefully he decides to play more, and they'll probably let him walk off and get paid somewhere else and maybe get some compensatory value there. But I would not be shocked if this is it for Isaac Sayamalo in Pittsburgh.
Who replaces him?
I think it could come via the draft next year, depending on how things shape up. I think there's a possibility you see that, or we'll see how maybe you know I struggle to think maybe that's Spencer Anderson over there. I don't know. Do you take Mason McCormick, flip him back over to the left side, and address the right guard? I don't know. Sitting here this far out, I would think that it comes via the draft.
Not on roster right now. I can't see anybody currently on this roster unless somebody shocks and some sleeper emerges, which is always possible, but I don't see the replacement on the roster as things stand right now.
Right.
Ben Skoranek next on the list. He was a practice squad addition right after cutdowns last year, got elevated, earned a role as a gunner and a really good one at that. Also a big package, 13 personnel blocker, just caught a couple of passes, mainly late in the season, but his role is special teams, and that's a role he should be out in front of in 2025.
Sign me up for 13 Ben Skoroneks on an NFL team, right? Hard nosed, no nonsense player. Look, it's a lot to expect this guy to contribute in the passing game. Hopefully, the Steelers don't get in a situation where they have to rely on him much in the passing game. He is a great special teams player overall, fiery, just what you want as far as that unit. Great gunner. Be interesting to see if anybody can wrestle that spot away from him. His value to this team is as a run blocker, as an occasional pass catcher, and obviously special teams can really he can deliver you one of those game changing plays on special teams. I think he is that kind of player. Right now, I have him inside the bubble as making this 53-man roster as I don't know the fifth or potentially sixth wide receiver, depending on how many they keep. Once again, you hope that he doesn't have to play a huge amount of offensive snaps. You hope that he doesn't have to figure in heavily into the passing game. He can still, when used, he's made a few plays in the NFL, got a lot of experience and all like that. So sign me up for Ben Skoranek as a fan.
Who is his main competition for a roster spot?
I think maybe one of these corners potentially, or maybe one of these back end wide receivers. I struggle to think that any of these younger wide receivers will challenge him for the gunner role. I think if anybody does, it potentially be one of these corners. Kent, I guess.
Yeah, it's a great call.
That is if Kent's not already challenging James Pierre, right?
Sure. Yeah, it may not be a receiver that could bump off a Skoranek. It could be a cornerback, could be another position. But I think his spot overall is relatively safe. Whose spot is safer, Skoranek or Robert Woods?
Man, Robert Woods offers you nothing as a special teamer. I tend to think Woods by a hair.
Okay. I think I'm with you, but Skoranek has a good case to make to stick around.
Look, within that, if this thing filters out, would Robert Woods not being part of this thing, would it shock me? No, absolutely not. And am I expecting Robert Woods to have 40 receptions on the season? No. But as I sit right now, answering the question the way you phrased it, I would give a slight edge to Woods, I guess, just because more experience in the passing game, and you know,
Just a
just
veteran of the
yeah,
room. I mean,
yeah.
Metcalf is there, but I think they like the mentality. They've had Van Jefferson, Robinson. What contract did Woods sign? It was a 1-year deal. What was it worth? Not much.
Not much at all. Let me see if I can pull it up real
Was it
quick.
minimum or was it above
No,
minimum? Or
it
was it one of the
wasn't.
veteran salary benefit
It
contracts?
was. It was he got a 745,000 signing bonus on this. So his cap number is 2 million. So I don't think, no, it's not a veteran benefit, or else the signing bonus would have been lower. So
Mm-hmm.
it is a minimum veteran salary of 1.255 million, but they evidently gave him a $745,000 roster bonus. So if you cut him, you're out 745,000 because his base salary is not guaranteed. So he's I wouldn't go writing his name down in pen. He's
And,
cuttable,
Skoranek got a 2-year deal, correct?
right?
What was his signing bonus?
Let's see if I can pull his up. Did they go by Benjamin? Let me see.
Was it more or
Sporadic.
less than Woods? Is what I'm just curious in.
He got a $1.08
Mm.
million signing bonus, which obviously is prorated 540,000 for each of the 2 years. So, and his base salary is a minimum, not guaranteed, as well. So, the fully
So
guaranteed money is 1.08. So you would have 540,000 in dead money this year and 540,000 in dead money next year if you were to cut Skoranek.
maybe Skoranek is safer than Robert Woods. I don't know. We'll see. I
Yeah,
think
if you
they
want to
both
look
make it.
at cash invested in both players.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I think Skoranek's probably going to make it. I think Robert Woods ultimately makes it. They get you to 5 receivers, right? With
Right.
the others in Austin and Metcalf and Rowan Wilson. All right, next on the list is Jacob Slade, a backup defensive lineman, has spent time on the practice squad at a Michigan State. Actually was teammates with Derek Carmen early in their college careers. I think Carmen talked about kind of being mentored by Slade. Slade's an older guy, and when he was there at Michigan State, they were both there. Slade was kind of a leader in that room, but tough path for Slade to make it.
They signed him to a reserve future contract in January 2024. Spent all of last season and off season with the Steelers, and was waived by the team after the preseason ended. The Steelers then signed him back to their practice squad before the start of last season, and he remained on the unit for the entire year, which we talked about several times. This is a huge accomplishment. The team again signed him to reserve future contract after the last season. During the preseason last year, he played 71 snaps on defense, 13 more on special teams. Most of those, I think, came at left defensive end. He was moved up and down the line in those 3 preseason games last year, and he ended the preseason with 9 total tackles. Fairly okay productive player at Michigan State. 4 sacks, 4 passes defense, 1 fumble recovery over a span of 4 seasons. During the pre-draft process, 6'3", 285 pounds, 32 3/8-inch arms. Look, the long story short here is, barring something unappetizing happening, this guy's not going to make the 53-man roster. I think you hope to see enough out of him with that kind of packed defensive line room, even beyond your starters and depth players. Best chance is sticking in Pittsburgh after the preseason is a practice squad member, but I think that's probably 50-50 at best when it comes to Slade.
He'll be happy to see those Cam Hayward rest days. He'll be happy when Hayward comes down without the helmet in hand. He's a guy that has stuck around, though, so there's something there they like. He's also done some scout team work. I think I spotted him playing the role of Patrick Ricard in a footage from Hard Knocks last year. You could kind of see him in the background. I'm pretty sure that was Slade pretending to be a fullback on scout team. So the more that you can help the team out, give them good looks on scout team is going to be important for Jacob Slade.
Yep.
All right, Dave, let's go to Darius Slay. 1-year deal, $10 million, signed over from the Eagles after being cut by Philadelphia this offseason. Should be a starting corner. The Ramsey addition complicates the cornerback rotation a little bit. Could Slay get rotated out? to some degree to save his legs. The question is, 34-year-old corner still can play. At least he could play last year. How much longer can he do? It's the big question.
Let's see. Played in just 14 regular season games with the Eagles as he missed 2 games due to minor injuries and another late in the year. They rested him overall. So 2 games missed last year due to injury. He's obviously a long tooth veteran. This is the can we get one more year out of him type of signing here. Has mostly played outside cornerback throughout his NFL career. He does, however, have some limited experience playing in the slot. Hasn't logged any special team snaps since 2020, and I don't think that's going to change in 2025. Obviously, they signed him to play a huge role in their secondary due to him mainly being an outside corner. He'll likely continue playing out of the outside in Pittsburgh, and especially when the defense uses any sort of type sub package, nickel, dime, whatever, that includes 3 or more cornerbacks on the field. The team obviously just recently traded for Ramsey. Good chance that Ramsey ends up being in base situations the starting corner opposite Joey Porter Jr. and then Slay coming in sub package situations to play on the outside. I tentatively have about, 750 defensive snaps for him in 2025. That feels about right unless he's asked to play more due to injuries. Very intelligent cornerback and should fit in well with the rebuilt Steelers secondary. It's worth cautioning that only once during Slay's NFL career has he registered more than 3 interceptions in a regular season. He only had 1 interception in 2025 with the Eagles, and that came in the playoffs. As far as stats go for Slay in 2025, I don't expect gaudy numbers in the takeaway department. He'll probably be more of a pass breakup guy player than anything else. And once again, do you want to get in a situation where you have to play him as an every down outside corner throughout the season? Probably not, but is he probably an ideal guy to play on the outside when and Ramsey or whoever else, whatever sub package situation you go? I think so. I don't really view him as a serious candidate for like free safety or anything like that. I think he's better to play him where he's played mostly throughout his career. That's outside corner. Could you get funky with him occasionally and slide him into the slot to confuse opposing quarterbacks? Yes, he has that ability, but I think this is an outside guy that will be used in really all sub package type situations.
Yeah, I hadn't dug into his numbers before, but he only played every single snap in 3 games last year with the Eagles. Now, they had a good secondary. He also had some injuries, Slay did, but it's probably unreasonable to expect him to be a truly 100% snap kind of a guy in Pittsburgh. And that's maybe one additional reason why you go out there and get Jalen Ramsey to help rotate in. I think Porter will play basically every single down. I think Ramsey will too. Slay could see a slight reduction in snaps and base packages at the very least. So I still like his game. He's a savvy veteran. He did not pick off a pass in the regular season last year for the first time since his rookie year, but he did pick off Jordan Love in the playoffs. His veteran savvy, I think, makes up for what he's lost speed-wise. As that mentor, that classic Steelers mentor corner they like to add. I imagine he won't get he'll get some reps in training camp, but they'll go easy on him. There are some concerns about the knees with him. There was a report from Adam Kaplan that one source told him there is concern with the knees, and that's not a secret. Slay's had surgery on his knees before. He's talked about playing well under 100% in the past. So it is, as you said, it's a good way to frame it. Can you squeeze out one more good year Darius Slay? I think you can, but if you can't, you have Ramsey, you have Porter, you even have Eccles and Trice, where if things go wrong with Slay, there are some plan Bs and Cs.
Yeah, does 750 or roughly 75% of the plays on defense sound right if he stays healthy for all 17 games? Obviously, that'll go lower if he misses any.
Looks like he was at 80.5% for the games he played in last year, so I would say 75 is a good number to put him at.
All right. Okay. I mean, obviously, I'm excited to see this, as I've said several times, the secondary and shake up and how they're able to move the pieces around within it, and can the communication be there? I view him as a heady guy, as a communicator, so he shouldn't hurt you in that area. For $10 million to see if you can squeeze one more year out of him, knowing that you have what you have behind him. I think it's worth the risk here.
It's a big glow up in the cornerback room, Dave, compared to last year. We talked about the difference in corners from last year to this year, and obviously some of that came at the expense of losing a Minka Fitzpatrick, so there's a secondary component to look at as a whole, but from the cornerback room, 1-to-1, Pittsburgh got a whole lot better in one offseason.
Well,
And I thought Slay had good tape last year, whatever it's worth. Does that mean it's guaranteed to continue? Could he fall off a cliff? Maybe, but I thought his tape, despite the lack of the gaudy takeaway numbers, was still solid in Philadelphia last year. All right, let's go to Rock Taylor, undrafted rookie free agent out of Memphis. Pittsburgh loves their Memphis players, and so he'll try to catch on to a spot, but more likely fight for a practice squad opportunity.
Yeah, Memphis product, one of the original undrafted free agent this offseason. In 4 seasons at Memphis, 163 passes for 2,375 yards, 7 touchdowns. Rushed a handful of times. 25, I went and researched this. 25 of his college receptions resulted in gains of 25 yards or longer. So, an explosive play guy out of Memphis, obviously a little bit, not a premier college program, but obviously up there. Mostly lined up wide outside during his 4 college seasons. Extremely limited slot experience. He projects, I guess, more of as an X at the NFL level. He did have 13 drops during his college career to go along with contested catch percentage of 56.1. Average depth of target was a solid 13.4 yards, and he had a nice yards per route run at 2.25 in college. 6'1", 213 pounds. Not a bad build overall. 9-inch hands. That's good to see. Fast 4.44. He got the Moses Malone 40-yard time there. Vertical probably could have been a little bit better, 30.5 inches. Short shuttle and 3-cone, not bad. Here's something interesting here. He logged just 32 special team snaps during his 4 years at Memphis, and most of those came as a member of the kickoff return team. So he enters the NFL without any really college return experience, special teams experience. That's going to be a strike against him, I think, unless he just turns the narrative around there. I think this is a perfect practice squad candidate for the Steelers when it comes to the wide receiver position, and I'm expecting to probably going to be an explosive play or two during the preseason.
Yeah, he summed it up well, Dave. There's something intriguing there with Rock Taylor, the size component, the productivity component in college, the way that he tested. I think he'll make some plays, but with that more limited, just a receiver background, unless he'll get reps in special teams periods, so he'll get some reps during uh, preseason games, but hard to crack the 53 with that more narrow resume. So practice squad is perfect for Rock Taylor.
I agree. Hopefully, he has a good preseason, good camp, stays healthy, yada yada.
From one UDFA to another, let's go to DJ Thomas Jones, undrafted free agent out of South Alabama. One time a big recruit from Ole Miss and then transferred to South Alabama. I think it was closer to home for him. That's a guy that was an H-back type. Interesting player. I think it's a guy that could push for a spot. He can play a little bit of fullback and probably be used as such in Pittsburgh this year. Can be a lead blocker, can catch. The question is, can he have some special teams value the way that Derek Watt did, the way that Connor Hayward does? That'll be the test for Thomas Jones. I think we disagree slightly on his chances, Dave, but I think there's something there.
Yeah, you're a little bit more bullish on him than I am. Mainly used as an inline tight end throughout his college career, and look at South Alabama. He got the job done there in that role. Measured in at 6'1" and 5/8", 250 pounds, long arms. He won't have a problem in the chow hall feeding himself. 33 and 1/8 inch arms. That helps make up a little bit for that lack of overall size. I bet he can get into a lobster as well too. 10-inch hands. 18 reps on the bench. Good vertical for a guy his size, 35 inches. That's some power there. 10-foot broad jump for a guy his size. Also not a bad short shuttle 3-cone time. PFF had him lining up in the backfield just less than 90 snaps in total throughout his college career. Also has Jones down for just 80 special team snaps during his college career. So that's a little something interesting there. The Steelers obviously list him as a fullback, but I mean, this is fullback, H-back, tight end. Appears that he did not play a ton of true in the backfield fullback throughout his college career. I think the fact that he's listed with limited capacity, I think he's a limited capacity special teams player. He will obviously need to change that narrative this summer. From a size standpoint, overall, when you look at having to block those base ends, the size is not obviously perfect overall, but he does have those long arms. He's really going to have to excel on special teams. I think you get into the whole Connor Hayward discussion of can he replace him one for one. This team obviously will keep at least 4 tight ends slash. Could you keep 4 tight ends and Thomas Jones? It's plausible, but where are you pulling that extra spot from? And if you are pulling from an extra spot, can DJ give you help on special teams? I'm not as bullish on a potential 53-man roster spot than you are. There is a path there to some degree. I view him more as a guy to be battling for a practice squad spot throughout the rest of the summer.
Don't tempt Arthur Smith with a good time of 4 tight ends and a fullback, but do you think Connor Hayward is that much more secure ahead of Thomas Jones?
From the special teams standpoint, definitely.
Okay, that's fair. And he certainly has that resume. He's been an accomplished multi-phase guy, and Thomas Jones hasn't been that, wasn't that in college, and we'll have to prove it. I think that's the number one thing he'll have to prove. You know who he reminds me of so almost identical? David Johnson. David Johnson was this squatty body at Arkansas State, a smaller school guy. He was long, but he was short. About the same size as Thomas Jones, about 6'1", jack of all trades, master of none. I think Thomas Jones a bit more athletic, can offer a bit more as a receiver. You kind of go back into his earlier tape, earlier at South Alabama, Old Miss, you can kind of see some flashes there. He was not really a true inline guy. You're right, he wasn't a fullback. He really was a Y-off, H-back, did a lot of pulling, but this guy can lead block. He's powerful. I think that's attractive in an offense that wants to run the ball, wants to be physical, and wants to have a fullback. Johnny Smith will play a little bit there, but he's not really a true lead blocker. I think Thomas Jones offers more there, but I think of David Johnson when I think about DJ
That's
Thomas
good.
Jones.
Yeah, let's play this once training camp gets open. Alex, let's play where's Thomas Jones at? And because look, I think you're going to see him fullback, H-back, end of the line, split. They're going to see everything that this kid can do. Special teams, obviously. So make sure you know what his number is come preseason games, because he might be hard to find.
I don't know what his number is right now. I got to do my jersey memorization here starting pretty soon. So let's start it right now. What number is DJ Thomas Jones? He is number 48.
All right.
So we'll look for him. But I think you're right. Special teams, he's got to show something. Connor Hayward's done it. Go back to Derek Watt. He was a core special teamer. Arthur Smith, his fullbacks. Keith Smith, special teams kind of a guy. So Thomas Jones, if he can't show that, it is hard to justify the spot on the 53. Because as a fullback, you're only playing, who knows, 5-10 snaps a game, if that. And so you got to have that game day value elsewhere.
Is he an upgrade from Michael Pruitt, the healthy Michael Pruitt last season? Is he 1-for-1 an upgrade over 2024 Michael Pruitt when healthy? At least overall of where Michael was and where this kid is right now.
That's just tough being sight unseen at the NFL level compared to a veteran like Pruitt. And they're different positions. Pruitt played a bit of fullback, but he was an inline guy. I don't think we're going to see Thomas Jones do a ton of inline work. I guess some. The tight end depth chart is relatively thin too, but he's more fullback and Pruitt's more tight end. I think there's more upside, and Pruitt was not. Pruitt played, I think, right wing on the punt coverage team a little bit. Even that I didn't love. I don't know. I think let's get into camp. Let's watch him and go from there.
Sounds good. Let's play where is DJ Thomas Jones this summer?
Number 48. My memorization. I got to get my flashcards ready for camp here, Dave. Let's get through the last 3 really quickly. The show's running a bit long, but we got to get through these 90 and 30 series. Let's go to Skylar Thompson, quarterback, 4th-stringer. He'll be counting on Aaron Rodgers to get some rest days because that'll give him extra reps. If not, those reps are hard to come by as a 4th-string quarterback. Although people hate when I say this, he is going to battle Will Howard. Will Howard's not going to be handed this job, nor should he be handed this job. Thompson has started games. He started playoff games. He knows Will Howard. They were Kansas State teammates together. Thompson can play a little bit, so don't completely count this guy out either. He's not your typical number 4 afterthought quarterback.
I'm not buying what you're selling.
Come on.
I think Will Howard have to fall off the cliff, have an awful training camp and preseason, and once again, I think you need to give a lot of work to Will Howard. Skyler, we'll see him, obviously late in some games. I'm not expecting him to make the 53. I'm not even expecting him, obviously, to make the practice squad.
Do not be shocked if those first couple practices I'm talking about the Skylar Thompson is out playing Will Howard. A veteran in training camp that's old hat can have an advantage, initially at least, over a rookie who's coming in and doing this stuff for the first time. So I remember Kyle Allen outplayed Justin Fields the first 3 practices of last year. So I'm not saying, again, I always have to give the caveat. I like Will Howard. I'm super excited he's a Steeler. But Thompson's going to get some reps. He might make some plays. Don't be shocked if he does.
All right.
All right. I still don't think he'll make the team.
All right.
Let's go to Juan Thornhill, who's now appears to be your starting free safety post Minkah Fitzpatrick trade after 2 turbulent years in Cleveland. Struggled with health. His play was pretty poor, but he's a guy that I was a big fan out of college. He had a really good career in Kansas City. He's athletic. He can hit. He can wear a lot of hats. And right now, that hat is starting free safety.
All right, he's coming off of a 3-year contract. He didn't see the final year of it. $21 million contract with the Browns, was signed by them as an unrestricted free agent in 2023. Did not go well overall for him in Cleveland, and they even ate some guaranteed money, I think, because of it, or at least some proration there because of it there. Why is he out of Cleveland? Well, over his last 2 seasons with the Browns, he dealt with a calf injury that resulted in him missing 6 regular season games in both 2023 and 2024. You can't help the club while in the tub, right? That played a big part, I think, overall with the Browns terminating his contract back in February. Throughout his NFL career, has predominantly been used as a free safety on defense. He'll turn 30 in October. This is one of these guys that, as we sit here at the start of training camp, it's a little bit, I think, a little bit murky as far as his outlook. Yes, right now you would think starting free safety. Will this team go out and add another veteran? If they don't, I think it becomes a little bit clearer of what his role will be. Will the Steelers use more, cornerbacks in sub package, and maybe even just put only Deshaun Elliott on? There's a lot of various things that you can do within that. He's even a healthy Juan Thornhill at this point of his career is probably just an average free safety overall. He's playing on a 1-year deal. Not a lot of money invested in him. Probably not going to get a lot of special teams value out of him. So this is to be continued. I think when it comes to his outlook, depending on what this team potentially does, adding another veteran safety between now and week 1.
Yeah, I'm just curious for his role. I'm curious to see the snap count. Will he be an every down kind of a guy the way that Minkah was? I don't think he will be. I think we're going to see some funky different groupings of 3 cornerbacks and some different creative ways to get your best defensive backs on the field. But staying healthy is key, first and foremost. Being consistent, being the impact player that he once was, and just getting integrated in the system and being a good communicator as another new piece in the secondary with several new pieces.
Yep. Interested to see how he fits in with the secondary overall. I think you could potentially see, definitely not 100% snap guy like Minkah. We're looking at 850, 900, based on 1,000 snap season.
That's a good question. I'm not entirely sure where that's going to fit in at. I think 80 to 85%. Yeah, I would say 85% on Thornhill.
Okay. Confidence level in quality of play, overall play at that kind of snap, assuming mostly free safety.
Not great. Probably punching above his weight ideally. When they had signed him, the safety market had gotten really thin. There was a bunch of other safeties I wish they had signed instead of Thornhill. There were a lot of guys I thought that could have made sense. But I thought, okay, Thornhill is a big nickel guy. You back up. I'm good with that, playing 15 snaps a game, that makes sense. Now as the guy, I mean, you better really hope A, he stays healthy, and B, really returns to form. I'm pretty skeptical about this one.
And by form, you mean the Kansas City years, right?
Yes, that was his best form.
All right.
You more confident than I am, or about the same, less?
I'm right along with y'all. I'm holding my breath.
Yeah. All right, let's finish up with Corey Trice Jr. The big thing is health, health, health. Stay healthy. Corey Trice Jr. missed all his rookie year with a torn ACL, missed a large chunk of last year with a hamstring injury, not played a lot of football. Got to be able to trust him. Should be full go. Remember last camp, they were easing him along. He was not getting a ton of reps early on. They ramped things up as the summer went along. He should be good to go from the start. I'm looking at a dime roll for Trice at 6 defensive back in those obvious pass situations. There's a lot of talent there, a lot of intrigue. Has to put it together.
Yeah, I think we're right back where we were, kind of, sort of at the start of last year's training camp. Was healthy fully enough, time to kind of participate fully. But they did kind of ease him along. Made the 53-man roster after playing in the first 3 regular season games. Though out he goes this time with a hamstring injury. Placed on IR as designated return player in week 4. Remained on IR through week 13. Once he was activated, even from the reserve injured list, he was inactive for the Steelers' week 14 and week 15 games. He did, however, play in the Steelers' final 3 regular season games before being inactive once again for the lone playoff game. So where's the trust level at overall there? Played in just 6 games on his way to registering 21 tackles. He's logged not even 200 defensive snaps on defense so far, to go along with 60 more on special teams. Mostly played as, I think, outside corner 2024, but did see some limited time in the slot and some of these sub packages that you talked about. It's certainly a big season for Trice, and mostly because he's missed the amount of time that he's missed with injuries, and obviously dating back to college years and injury. Can't get over the fact that he's yet to play 200 regular season snaps. The Steelers have invested heavily in their cornerback room this offseason. Slay, Eccles, traded for Ramsey. James Pierre is going to figure in this maybe on special teams. Drafted Dante Kent. You got obviously young corners in Joey Porter Jr. and Beanie Bishop. This is wasn't this the one bone, 3 dogs, 3 dogs, 1 bone that you wrote about the other day?
That was Jonathan. I forget who all he put on there. He put Eccles, which I think Eccles is going to make it, but he still got to, I guess, earn that spot, earn that role. I forget the other 2 corners, if it was Kent and Pierre, or if Trice was in that. Let me look if I can pull it up here. He had Pierre, Eccles, and Kent. But
okay.
I mean, I think Trice will make it if he's healthy, but just gotta be healthy. My question's not about will he get cut. It's gonna be will he start the year on IR.
Okay, and he's not going to start. I mean, he could obviously be a sub-package guy if dressed, but if he's dressed, he's going to have to play on special teams. And where is he going to fit on special teams? More than likely would be jammer slash gunner, right?
Well, it might not be gunner if you got Pierre and. But if Pierre makes it, that's a whole different discussion, I suppose. We'll see who gets gunner work. I'm sure Trice will get some, but he doesn't have to be a core guy, but he's got to be play on kick coverage, or play on, as you said, jammer on the punt return team, get a couple hats there, field goal block team, even that's kind of whatever. So it's just about staying healthy. What I would love Trice to become, Dave, at least this year, is that tight end eraser. Pittsburgh has been beat up by tight ends. They face Baltimore. That's why Pittsburgh goes to their big nickel look against the Ravens. You got Likely and Mark Andrews. Can you get somebody that can match up on one of those guys? A Mike Gesicki in Cincinnati, you see twice a year. Everyone talks about, Higgins and Chase, and those guys are alphas, but Gesicki's a really good receiving tight end too. Can you get a guy that's big and long and has that background that Trice does as a part corner, part safety back at his Purdue days that can really match up on those guys? I mean, Ramsey will do some of that stuff too, but you really want Trice to be able to show he can offer that.
Is this a lower pedigree Cortez Allen?
Oh, there's a name I haven't heard in a hot minute. Yeah, because Allen had, he would go against Gronk, right? They would try to get him on. I mean, it didn't go well, but no one had an answer for Gronk. Well, I kind of see that. I see the parallel. Sure, I'm with you. I'm dancing with you.
All right. If he stays healthy all throughout the summer, is he a lock to make the 53?
And plays reasonably well? Can I get that too?
All right.
Yes, if he does those 2 things.
Okay. I wouldn't go
You would
out.
say no?
I think there's a lot of minutia on the back end of the roster with special teams that
Sounds like a no.
enough there that I would not say he's a lock if he stays healthy and plays reasonably well. I think a lot of it's going to depend on who else stays healthy and who else does. Trice better show up on special teams. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, but are you going to cut a young corner when Darius Slay's in his last year and there's no guarantee Ramsey plays beyond? I don't know if you're going out there shedding young, physical avatar corners.
I wouldn't bet my house whatever circumstances you attach to them.
Would you bet my house? Is that kind of the standard? I like my house, Dave.
Yeah, I don't know if I do that to you.
All right, fair enough. All right, Dave, we're going to pause the 90 and 30. We'll finish things up on Monday. Let's get to a couple reader emails if we have anything new and close out today's very long show.
Oh, we have some emails here.
I figured we did.
Patrick Donovan. First, let me say thank you. Two questions. A lot is talked about Cole Holcomb being on the bubble, but nothing is said about if he returns to his old self. Is Holcomb before the injury better than Queen? No, I don't think so. If he does look to be back to playing the way he was before injury, how does the lineup look? And if Queen struggles, should the green dot go? I mean, you got a lot of ifs there. I mean, it's going to take a lot for this team to pull the plug on Patrick Queen. First and foremost, when it comes to 2025, I mean, he for Queen not to be the man in the middle, they're probably going to be injury. It's going to take a lot to pull the plug on him.
Can I give what might sound like a hot take? I think Cole Holcomb in 2023, before getting hurt, had a better season than Patrick Queen had all last year.
Okay, I don't know if I'd go that far, but
Holcomb played really. He had splash plays. He was forcing fumbles. I mean, now
players down the field.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he was wearing green dot back then. I think he was. I can't quite remember who had those duties before everything went to hell with him and Quan. Now, Holcomb, God knows what you're going to get from him now. I'm not saying Holcomb's better today. I mean, Holcomb's going to have to just make the team and prove his health, but that's my one take to that question.
All right, second, how safe is Brandon Echols? If the Ramsey deal happened before free agency, does the team still sign Echols? It's impossible. I think I see the question there. Should Echols be talked about as a bubble player?
No, he's comfortably inside on a 2-year deal. Was that $8 million they gave him? How often those guys get cut? Now, what's his role going to be? He's really clearly a backup right now, but quality depth, which I think Pittsburgh will gladly take.
Caleb Zaborski, I know the show will most likely be about TJ Watt, but set aside that, do you think Aaron Rodgers' game will translate with how we've answered this like 18 different times, I think, how Arthur Smith constructs his offense? Smith's offense is not known to get the ball out fast, which is the best attribute of Rodgers' game. He says, what are your honest opinion about the Steelers' offseason ranking it from F to A plus and why? We don't have a lot of time to really address that. Let's get closer to the season here. How do you think Aaron Rodgers' game will translate to Arthur Smith?
Yeah, we've talked about that a ton. It can work. There's going to be some things they got to come together on, but I think they both understand. Aaron Rodgers knows the offense he's signing up for. He's played in similar systems in the Matt LaFleur system, which has some similarities to what Arthur Smith likes to do. As I've said, if Pittsburgh wins, it's going to be a great relationship. These guys were fantastic with working with each other. But if they don't win, it's going to be, there was bad blood. It just kind of, the narrative of the story is just driven by the outcome. But I think it can work, absolutely.
All right, I got several few in here. Let's take just one more, and we'll try to save some of these others maybe for the Monday show here. From Brett Nile, he says, I have a follow-up question to your discussion about the cornerback room. Where will Brandon Echols play, he asked. The way I see it, your top three corners, Ramsey, Porter, and Slade, will be playing essentially all the snaps in base and nickel. Last year, Corey Trice was playing in the dime, so what will Echols' role be, assuming he is not traded? Oh, first, I don't think Echols is going to be traded. I suppose it's not impossible. To me, he is likely to be the primary backup at slot and maybe dime defender. The reason I'm asking is because if he is your backup slot dime defender, then what role would there be for Beanie Bishop? He says, I think Dave was implying this, but I'll say it. If Eccles is your backup slot, then assuming everyone is healthy, there's no room on the roster for Bishop. Could he be one of those players who spends a year on the roster and the next year on the practice squad?
We actually talked about that in our Discord chat earlier today. Ross is making his roster prediction. Mine will drop on Monday. The reporting from the spring, and we'll get eyes in camp soon enough, is that Eccles was really playing on the outside, and he's primarily been an outside corner in his career. He has played in the slot some, and we talked about potentially him being in the mix pre-Ramsey trade, trying to figure out who else might push a Beanie Bishop. But I think Eccles' primary role is going to be as a backup, the top backup outside corner. Special teams he'll play. Could he be in the gunner conversation as well? He's got a background there, I think, so we'll see about that. But I think it'll be primarily a backup outside corner.
I guess the meat of this, and he's right. I'm not saying, I'm just saying, is there a possibility where Beanie Bishop doesn't make this 53-man roster? Now, I also like to add, at this time of year, these things have a funny way of working themselves out with injuries and what have you. But as is right now, do you consider Beanie Bishop a 53-man roster lock?
I think when I did my article, I had him at 96%, a very specific number. Is that too high? I mean, I had him that was in the lock category, but technically he's not in the same camp as, say, TJ Watt, who's obviously 100%.
I'd put him probably more around the 90% category.
Okay.
Look, I mean, he made some plays. I thought he, for what he was asked to do and everything last year. But this is a full room, right? And you get into the semantics of how this defense will play and special teams roles and numbers. I don't consider him a lock. No.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think it's a good problem to have. They're going to enjoy their depth. Injuries, as you said, will probably sort some of that group out, but everyone has to earn it, Bishop included.
All right. We got through a handful of emails here. I don't even know how long we're at right now.
It's an hour 45 probably. It's not. It feels longer. We had to pause and write up the Watt contract. Two quick things. This thing you retweeted, TJ Watt with some barbecue. Where was this at? This is a doctor's office. Who brought on barbecue? What's going on in this photo?
Yeah, good question. Looks like there's
like a physical therapy office.
Yeah, there's a body chart. Where's Mission Barbecue at?
I don't know. We'll have to look it up, but it's just funny to see the site there. But that also, not related to Pittsburgh, would have been, had it not been for the Metcalf trade. All those second-round picks that have been held up, they're all starting to fall in line, aren't they, Dave? Everyone's getting signed, and so I assume next couple of days, that whole second-round group, most of them at least, will be signed, sealed, delivered.
All right, you should know this. There's a Mission Barbecue in Pittsburgh. There's several in the PA area.
Is Watt in Pittsburgh then? Because he was just in Wisconsin, wasn't he? Just training? Wasn't that where they were training it?
Let's see if there are. Boy, we're going next level here. There is a. Where's he? What part of
Pewaukee? He's from Pewaukee.
Is Kenosha close to that? Green Bay. There's 5 locations in Wisconsin. So is he going to take? Did he go to take his physical in Wisconsin, or who knows? Long story short, I don't know if he's back in Pittsburgh or not. Somebody brought him Mission Barbecue, and it looks to be maybe at a doctor's office, right?
Looks like it. But either way, he'll be in Pittsburgh come July 23rd on report date, and that's all that really matters.
He looks like he hasn't missed. It looks like TJ Watt's been doing more than just hold the baby, changing diapers this offseason.
That's how I look too. Me and TJ Watt's builds are identical, I can say, from our audio only format.
All right. I bet he sounds a little bit better than you too. But all right. We'll get to some more of these listener emails on Monday. Fire your shots at us for all that we talked about with TJ Watt and our viewpoints on that. Would you have traded TJ Watt before the draft? Yada, yada. We gave you plenty to talk about on the new TJ Watt deal. We'll get into a little bit more of that probably on the Monday show as well, too. So in the meantime, as always, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button. Follow the directions that way. Oh, I'm worked up a ladder today. I like talking about contracts and cash and TJ Watt and all like that. But until Monday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.